What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Flop. Before we get this episode started, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Triple Crown, and also a new sponsor, West Georgia Cornhole. Everybody, we are super excited to announce that we're partnering up with West Georgia Cornhole. You've got to check out their X Factor boards. They're unbelievable. We've got some flop X Factor boards that I'll put right here so you can see them. And they are just awesome, guys. I've never played on a board more stable. It's really true. Everything is so true. Every bag you throw, it does exactly what you think it's going to do when it hits the board. So go to West Georgia Cornhole, and not only can you get a discount with our code, the flop, on the boards, but you can also get a discount on the bags and everything Titan on the site. Also, I believe they're running a holiday sale right now also. So you can go on there. I do not believe the discount code pairs with the holiday sale, but it's definitely worth checking out. Everything West Georgia Cornhole.
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah. And also, guys, don't forget to check out the Flop Teespring account. We've got some hoodies like this, and we've got some t-shirts and some Flop coffee mugs and things like that. We love seeing pictures of you guys at events, representing and everything like that. So really appreciate everybody that supported us through the Teespring, and hopefully we can continue to see people repping the Flop merch everywhere around the country. So thank you guys so much. Well, now let's get into it. Dad, this is episode 27. We're back, and we're going to talk about how to beat people that are better than us at this game. Dad, how do we beat people that are better than us at cornhole?
I have no idea. That's why I'm watching this episode, because I need to find out.
Nice. Yeah, that's exactly right. We have no earthly clue, but we're going to give it our best shot.
Right.
Yeah, if you're like us, and people just keep beating you at beanbag toss, it's just so frustrating. And do you keep losing at beanbag toss? Is it making you mad? Well, let's talk about how to stop that from happening.
Let's talk about it. I mean, it's a game, right? It's not frustrating at all to lose all the time. Constantly.
It's life and death. It's absolutely life and death. Yeah.
It's something that wildly affects the rest of your week. That's all.
It does. Surprisingly, yeah. When you really get into it, it can affect your week. It's hilarious. But
it can.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So most of our audience, everybody is typically around the beginner to intermediate level. I'm sure we have people that are, higher level advanced players watching our show. But for the most part, I think it is guys that are just kind of getting started or trying to get over that intermediate hump, trying to get a little bit better. So if you are just starting, or even if you don't play every day, so you have played a lot, but you're just not really consistent anymore, like, you're going to have to find a way to beat people that are better than you at this game. Because if someone's just putting more work in than you, they're going to be better than you at the game. We talk about it all the time. So, but there are a couple of strategies that you can kind of implement to close that gap. And and
just to piggyback on that, I think, just as a disclaimer, and I feel like we're all adults here. I think the primary demographic that we have is like 18 to 35 or something like that. So we're all adults. We're not trying to tell you in this episode, follow these tools and you'll beat people better than you, because then you would be better than everybody, right? Like, if you could just beat whoever you wanted to beat. This episode is meant to assist you in being better. And being better might mean you still lose to those people, but it's a closer game. It's a longer drawn out game. They might beat you 21-4, but there were a lot of washes involved, and there was a lot of like chess involved. And so everybody knows that a 21-2 or 21-4 loss could be an absolute beating, but it can also be a very long, challenging, drawn-out game. It just so happens that they edge you out on these rounds and they take these points off. So we're just trying to help give you tips to be a better all-around player and to play more competitively against players who are better than you. Because arguably, if you step up to the boards next to Mark Richards and you normally play in intermediate division, you're probably not going to win that game or even score in that game. And that game may actually be 6 rounds max, if I'm being generous.
That's about as close to a sure thing as you can get in this life. Mark Richards versus an intermediate player.
Yes. So I'm just making this as a little caveat. I think you guys understand that, but I don't want anybody in the comment section saying, hey, I followed your rules and I got smoked at the blind draw with the best guy there. We're just trying to help. We're trying to be competitive. We're trying to help grow your ability to be competitive in this sport. So go ahead.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Tell them how to do it.
That's a perfect disclaimer. Now, let me fall on my face and try to tell you how to play well against pro players. No, I think that's a great disclaimer, what you said. I think you're exactly right. We want to give good players a tough time at least. And, when you get that fist bump at the end of the game, you want it to be a real fist bump. Like, dang, dude, like, yeah, I beat you 21-2, but man, like that was tough for me. And like, we also want you to know that like the strategies that we are going to talk about in this episode, they work against pros. Like pros don't like, if you lay a block, like pros don't have invisible or like, bags that are able to phase through other bags, like the Flash or something. Like a block does matter even to a pro. It's something they have to think about, and it will force them to take a higher percentage shot. So like, it's just stuff like that. Like these things do work against all players, so yeah.
And though they might be better at higher percentage shots, it's still called a higher percentage shot for a reason. A pro
exactly
is not 100% on airmails or 100% on roll bags. Some of them feel pretty close when you watch them. They feel pretty close to that, but they're not 100%. So yeah, these shots matter. They do.
Absolutely. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was just kind of like an intangible thing. And I think this is good for any sort of endeavor or community where you're trying to get better. And that's just to leave the ego at the door. If you can't accept that you aren't as good as an ACL pro or an advanced player, the game's going to be over very quickly because you're going to try to match their, intensity or match their skill level. And I can promise you, like you're saying, that's a 6-round game where, Mark Richards, finishes the game immediately because maybe he blocks you and then hits his, 2 airmails over the top and pushes in and gets 12. And you try to do the same thing and you threw 4 bags off the board, so that's never a good strategy. You need to focus on what you need to do to at least give them a hard time. So I kind of like to picture it and just from a mental focus standpoint. So before the game, like decide that you're not going to lose your mental focus. If you normally throw a bag off per round, there's no point in freaking out and be like, God, why am I throwing so bad? When you're in like acting like you normally throw a 10-point per round when you don't. Like just relax. If you're playing like you normally play, that's fine. So definitely just like relax and decide that, you're not going to get worked up because you're not playing to the same level as a pro.
And it's so important because, to piggyback, and I know I've said that a lot, but to piggyback off what you're saying, we've all watched those games. Like I like to watch intermediate games sometimes when I'm joking around, moving around on Facebook. I like to watch an intermediate game, because I like to watch people play who are learning how to play and who are figuring it out. And sometimes it's very entertaining because, you see a lot of 3-4 rounds and things like that, but we've all watched that intermediate person who they'll throw their first bag and it'll go in. Great. As expected. This is what we're doing. We're throwing bags in the hole. This is what we're
easy.
doing. They throw their next bag and it's a little off to the right and they go. They throw their next bag and maybe it shoots off the back of the board. And again, they're like,
it's hilarious.
Smack the bag or whatever. And then they might throw their last one in the hole even, and then they're like, okay. But it's always so interesting to me. And I know I'm guilty of it too. And I know you're guilty of it.
Me too.
But it's so funny. It's like, you're not a 10 PPR player.
Stop freaking out.
Why did you just get frustrated when you threw a bag to the right of the hole?
It's because you're playing next to somebody who's so good. That's why.
Well, and it's not even that. They'll be playing. This will be an intermediate game. It's like, bro,
Oh,
he's
okay,
not
okay.
getting a 12 either, you know? But to
Yeah,
walk up to that in that situation and be so frustrated, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm not going to get a 10 this round.
that is
You don't
hilarious. Yeah.
really get a whole lot of 10s, bro. You're an intermediate player, you know? I mean, a
I
10 is
know.
like that's like ooh, you remember your 10s. Like you're still at the level where every four bagger matters. And you're like,
Most
I made a
definitely.
four bagger in that game. That was pretty good. When
Yeah.
it's like the thing is like even me, like when I'm and I'm not great. I'm not great at this game. I'm not good at this game. Um, but I'll look at my stats on the ACL Pro app or the ACL, Platinum, and I got one four bagger that whole game. Like
Yeah.
I'm capable of throwing four baggers, but I don't. Again, I'm in competitive. An intermediate player who's throwing a fit about not getting a four bagger. Just remember where you're at. Check your ego. Like you
Right.
said, check your ego. You're in intermediate. Why? Because you're an intermediate player. Why? Because you probably have a 5 or 6 PPR.
Yeah.
So if you throw a 6, hold on, you have a 5 or 6 PPR average and you throw a 7. Why are you frustrated? That's the best round you've ever thrown.
In your
Not
whole
really, but
existence. Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
that's a good round for you. Why are you freaking out? Anyway, I know I caveated a little bit, but
No, and
seriously,
that's a
check
perfect,
your
yeah.
ego, know where you're at, know your ability, know where you play, get in where you fit in.
Absolutely. Yeah. We see that all the time. And I've done that too. And I'm just like thinking back to times that I was getting so frustrated in an intermediate, like regional or something. It's like this is the most low stakes scenario like I could ever be in my life. The
Yeah.
kid next to me is 13, and I'm like, I'm gonna throw my lawn chair. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm playing a 12-year-old in intermediate, and my
Yeah.
heart rate is 170. I'm freaking
Are you
out,
running
but
your watch is like, are you running a marathon? No,
yes,
no, I'm
I
not.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely check the ego. Understand that like this game, like you were talking about with PPR, like of course we can play out of our mind, and we all have days where we end up playing much better than our normal skill level or further below. Most of the time for me, it's a lot further below. Um,
Same.
but no, but pretty much like if you play a ridiculous amount of rounds, or like if you track your stats on the ACL player app, like you're pretty consistent, and it's you make very very incremental gains in this game. And so if you throw 7.01 PPR all the time, like you can probably expect to throw around that. Like it's we don't just randomly start throwing in the 11s and stuff. So just be happy if you're around where your skill level is, or even if you're doing a little better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're throwing like, oh wow, that was a really good game. I threw a bunch of 8s and 9s that game.
Yeah,
Yeah, be happy about that because you're playing above where you normally play. That's what the goal is.
exactly. You're playing against yourself. You really are. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to beat the previous version of yourself. And even if that's like just little things, like man, every
Mm-hmm.
time I try to throw a sneak around bag around a block, I clang the bag off the side of the board because I stepped too far out or whatever, and like I hit
Yeah.
a real good bully bag or sneak around this game. Like take those little victories to the bank,
Yes.
because that's what's going to propel you to keep practicing and to keep reaching your goals.
Right.
Heck yeah. So now the first obvious tactic that everyone thinks of when you think of playing someone that is at a higher skill level than you is to block.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this all the time, but the block affects everybody. It absolutely affects everybody. And even if it's not a big deal to an advanced player, and they can, they've got a good percentage roll or good percentage airmail, just like we were talking about, that is a higher percentage shot than a slide shot. It just is, and it's always going to
Yep.
be, even if they're 70% on airmail, which is absolutely disgusting. Like 70% on
Yeah.
airmail is like top of the world. Like, holy crap, this guy basically never misses. That's still 30% of the time they're missing
Right.
the airmail. Like that is
And I
good for
guarantee
you.
you their slide shot is a higher percentage than their airmail.
Most definitely. unless you're playing like Jimmy McGuffin or something, who only airmails the whole time.
Yeah, all the time.
But yeah, so take a little bit off your throw or loft it, or like however you accomplish the block. And then after you set that block, that's when the real round starts, because we all get really excited when we lay a perfect block. But then we get caught up in the game and we try to get around that block or something too. That's not you. That's not you in this game. If you're playing a guy that can really capitalize on your mistakes, you need to make less mistakes so he can't capitalize on them. I know it seems obvious, but block behind. You know, if he tries to throw a roll or something and it stays behind that bag, block behind that bag, pin that bag, make that next roll even more difficult, because now he's got to roll over 3, which is an even higher percentage shot. And just play smart, lay behind, lay up, and I would say only airmail if you absolutely have to, or it's super worth it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's say you throw your block and it's your first bag and you throw your block and it sets perfectly. And then they throw an airmail and clangs off the back, hits the back of the hole, shoots off the back of the board. Okay. You're sitting on a point right now. So you throw your next bags, lay behind. So you've got 2. Okay. You're sitting on 2 points right now. They throw their next bag. Let's say they hit it, let's say they hit this airmail. Well, now they have 1 point. Okay.
Yep.
So you throw your bag again, and maybe you hit that pile, and maybe your first one falls in, or maybe it doesn't. And now it's a wash. Now they've got to throw their bag again. They hit this airmail, right? Okay. Now they're sitting on 3. You've got 3. They're sitting on 3, or they're sitting on 6, right? So you throw again, you hit that pile and yours finally falls in. You're sitting on 6 points. It's a wash right now. They throw their airmail, they miss it, you wash the round out. They make it, they only get 3 points. And you've played safe. You've managed to keep all of your bags in play, and that's not a terrible round to give up. And if they have to work at getting 3 points per round, that's a pretty decent game. If you can stay consistent and keep yours piling up, or whatever whatever game plan you're trying to go for, or maybe they're hooking the hole and you've got them in situations where even if they try to airmail, there's a risk of dragging your bag as well. I mean, there's options. You've got options. You're making them work. It's not just going to be easy. You're making them have to think about it a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's a huge release of like there's no pressure when you're just playing. I mean, of course there's pressure, but there's a lot less pressure when you're not the one having to take the high percentage shots. When you're just laying back and laying up and not taking a risk, giving onesies and twosies, and just forcing them to make big shots, like that's a nice place to be. And I've definitely been in situations like that, and it's very frustrating for them, and very you just have to be patient is all. Like, you have to understand that it's probably going to be a really long game, but you kind of feel the frustration build, because just imagine yourself in those shoes. Like, that's a lot of pressure to have to make really big shots round after round. So yeah, you just kind of sit back and follow your game plan. And if you end up losing the game, which, in this scenario, if you're playing like a high advanced player, you're probably going to lose the game. But I would consider it a victory. I really would. If you you stuck to your game plan, you blocked behind, you were in the way of the hole. Like, if you're like, man, I was in front of the whole game. Like, he was having to do crazy stuff to get around me. Like, I consider that a huge victory.
Yeah, I do as well. And also, I want to point out that pretty much the only scenario where you're going to be on the side of where you're going to be playing against a player of this caliber is going to be in a blind draw scenario.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
You're not in the same division as this player. We're talking about, intermediate competitive level players trying to compete against advanced pro level players. And so the only time that's really even going to be a scenario is probably at a blind draw. So here's what you're hoping. You're hoping that your partner, or that the pro or advanced level player's partner, is not also a pro or advanced level, because if they
which
aren't,
happens more than we could ever
it
count.
happens. And
Pro
yes,
players get
those
pro players.
and those that does happen. But in the event where you don't, and you got a pro player, they can drag a lot of players to the finals. They can drag a lot of players to first place. And I don't mean drag as in like you're a scrub or anything like that if you've ridden the coattails of a pro, but let's be real. They're carrying the majority of the load.
Definitely.
The reason you're going undefeated or sitting in the king seat is probably not because you were throwing a 10 PPR. It's probably because they were.
Right.
And so you do your job on your end and they do their job on their end. So to the point I'm trying to get to, though, is that's what you're hoping. You're hoping that pro or advanced level player has got a person that's a competitive level, or a competitive level player on their end. And so you're hoping your competitive level player can beat their competitive level player, and you can do your very best to hold this guy.
Yeah.
So if you can come out with threes, giving up a 3, giving up a 2, giving up even an occasional 4 to this,
you could win the game
player
like that.
You can win a game like that. You absolutely can win a game like that. It's one of those deals where you talk to you have your little meeting before the game with your player, and you're like, hey, we're playing pro and competitive team here. So which one of us is the better player? Who wants to throw against the pro? Okay. Your whole job is not to beat him. Your whole job is to contain him.
Yep.
Your whole job is to make it ugly, make it dirty, make him work, make him flex his pro muscles to get his points. And then you, on the other end, you're the guy. You need to be the stud right now. You need to be the one who's putting it on this other guy. And hopefully you can get points that way,
Yep.
But it's what it's all about. Point. That's everything from who's playing against who is a strategy player. Like you and I talked about in another podcast. Sometimes a good strategy is to put your dirtier player with the pro. And then put your slide shot player on the other end going hole for hole, just trying to score. If you end up in a situation where you end up in a situation where you got a guy who's like, man, I really just like to shoot for the hole. And, you're like, okay, well, I can play a little more dirty. So I'll play on the end down here with this guy and I'm going to muddy up everything. You play the slide shot and just go hole for hole on that end.
Yep. I know it feels so much better. It feels like, yeah, man, like, let me get my, super good partner to play this, this high advanced player or whatever, guy that wins blind draw all the time or whatever. It feels like you want to get, your best slide shot guy to play against the pro or advanced player. But when you really look at the data, like when you look at the numbers for like dirty play versus slide shot, like it's kind of crazy how much the defense works because of the high percentage shots that the person has to take. I mean, it really does work. And I think maybe it kind of equals out and maybe it's kind of the same result, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to put bags in the middle of the board and for you to have, 1 in 3 on. Like you could have 1 in 3 on and walk away from that round, with a wash. It's crazy how dirty play can elevate you and make it more difficult on a player that normally would be waxing you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've played in regionals against I went to one where I think I can't remember if I was second or third. I don't want to pad my ego or whatever, but I went to a regional and I got second or third, and I beat a guy who was throwing slide shots. He was throwing Vipers, he was throwing fast bags, and I was able to beat him because nobody else was trying to block him. He was literally just slide shot against slide shot, and he was a better slide shot player than most of the people in the division. but I was able to beat him because I got up there and was throwing blocks and, pushing and blocking, and he just wasn't going through them. The blocks were doing exactly what they were doing. And he got super frustrated. And at the end of the game, he was like, man, I just couldn't do nothing,
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I
Because
know.
I
And they
wasn't going to
start
let you
questioning.
do it, you know?
Exactly. And most of
And
the time, what's
so,
crazy is like, I feel like players with like a higher, like, cornhole IQ or whatever you want to call it, they know that, like, okay, yeah, the blocks were really getting my way or whatever. But it is funny when people, that they're like a good competitive level player and they're like,
yeah,
man, I just had a bad game. Like, I could not figure it out. Like, last game, I threw a, 10 or whatever. And, they don't even realize that it was, the blocks, the
no.
layups, the just muddying up the board that was causing them to stumble. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's like you've said before, everybody is the star of their own movie.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when someone has a bad game, they don't ever, their first impulse is never, man, that dude made it so hard on me. It was just like,
No,
man, I
yeah,
just couldn't get it. I couldn't find it that game. I just don't know what happened. My shots just weren't falling. It's like, yeah, because you couldn't see the hole.
exactly.
That's
Yeah.
why. That's the whole, I'm the star of my own movie. So I know exactly why I beat you.
Yeah,
you know like it's
that's
easy for
exactly
me to
right.
see from my standpoint. And I will say this too, that even from the star of your own movie mentality, from you and I, doing this and talking about this stuff, and the mentality and the mindsets and stuff, I absolutely know for 100% when I have a bad game versus when
Hmm.
someone played me out of their minds. And it's like they
Yeah,
beat the hell out of me. That
and they did
person
everything they needed to
beat
do to beat you.
the hell out of me, and it had nothing to do with what I was doing at all.
Right.
They just outplayed me 100%. And I can see that. And I also know, though, that person had no business beating me. Where was I? What was I even doing?
Yep.
You know, like I'm able to actually see the distinctions now between who's who the win belonged to. Did the win belong to you, or did I give you the win? Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
And of course there's the alternative, which is, holy crap, that was a great game. It went down to the wire. I was throwing great, they were throwing great. He was, I'd made this round was me, that round was him. So yeah, I'm not trying to say that I either give you the game or you win the game. There is the middle ground where it's just like,
Oh
wow,
yeah.
that was a hard fought back and forth battle. But yeah, there it's so funny to me how some people cannot see that. They just cannot see. I just couldn't get it together that game. But somebody
That's
watching it
weird.
was like, yeah, because they kept putting blocks on you and you were shooting off the back of the board trying to push through it,
Yeah,
and they were
it's
able to
crazy.
collect, or he was able to roll, or he was able to do whatever. It's like, yeah, there's reasons, but anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think people get tunnel vision. We all get tunnel vision. And I think that if we can just kind of lift up our eyes and try to see what's actually happening on the board, it may not benefit you that game specifically or this year specifically, but
Mhm.
a couple years or whatever, couple months, couple years of actually like keeping your eyes up, paying attention, not getting tunnel vision. It's like, okay, this guy always beats me because he throws these bags and does this every single time, and I can't stop it right now.
Right.
But like the awareness over time will lead you to like making better decisions, making smarter decisions on the board.
Hmm.
Because if you're just tunnel vision, and if you lose a game, the only thought in your mind is, "Man, I sucked that round. I couldn't get it together." Then you're probably not going to progress very much. You're probably going to plateau.
Yeah, because you need to be able to recognize the chinks in your armor, and you need to be able to recognize weak points and
Yeah,
work on correcting them. So,
definitely. Yeah, just being aware is super
mhm.
important. Um, I also kind of had just a note, like if you're legitimately playing a pro level or like high advanced player, and there's like zero chance that you're going to win the game, then like by all means, like have fun, try a bunch of crazy stuff, like,
Yep.
try to and one them or whatever. Like we're not saying don't do that if you want. Like I'm just saying
Yeah.
the main thing we wanted you to know in this episode is yeah, by all means, do whatever you want and do crazy stuff. The game's probably going to be 6 rounds, like my dad said earlier, and it's going to be over before you can even blink.
Yeah.
But the reason we're saying all this stuff in this episode is you will see that even if you get absolutely starched, just making smart decisions, blocking, laying behind, making them take the higher percentage shots, that stuff does work even against pros. Like,
It
yeah,
does.
it may be 21 to
Why do you think
3.
pros do it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it may be 21 to 0. You may get absolutely skunked. But the thing is if you see that these strategies are working against a pro, guess what's going to happen if you take those same strategies and you go to your intermediate regional and you play those
Mm-hmm.
guys? You're probably going
Yeah.
to start winning games, like
Yes.
actually winning games without even getting
Yes.
any better at cornhole, like just
Yeah.
being smarter.
Throw your 6 PPR in intermediate
Yep.
and aggravate the heck out of the guy who, again, throws the Vipers, but he also has a 5 or a 6 PPR. You know what I mean? Like he can only
Exactly.
throw them in the hole when the hole is available. Muddy it up. Just get out there and make it dirty. Stack your stuff all around it. Escape out of there with 3 points on a 4 with 4 on the board. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it happens.
I mean,
yeah.
It happens. Just get out there and get after it, Like it's exactly right. If you can slow down a pro with muddying up the board, and
Just
I'm not saying,
imagine.
again, we're not talking about stalling them or getting them or getting in their head. But yeah, if it works on an advanced level player, you start putting that stuff down in front of an intermediate or a competitive player, and they struggle. They do.
Oh my God. Yeah, because they don't have the wisdom to understand that they shouldn't go for 3 straight sneak arounds
Or
like
3 straight airmails.
3 straight air, like they don't have that knowledge yet. And so you could seriously start winning some games just by making that small adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Especially at the intermediate level. Intermediate level, it becomes a little more difficult when you get in competitive and you have people who actually have a better knowledge of the game, and they realize very quickly their airmail's not going in. They'd stop throwing it, and they'll start laying behind you. So you throw the block, and then they lay behind you, and then you lay behind them, and then they lay behind you, and then all of a sudden it's like, who's going to shoot it? Am I going to shoot it? Are you going to shoot it? And you get in that situation, and so the person who has the second to last bag pulls the trigger and it clanks off the back. And so now they've got 3 on the board. Okay. Do you want to just take 1? So you take your 1, or do you want to try the airmail? Because worst case scenario, well, I would say worst case scenario, you just throw off the back of the board, but I'm liable to hit the bag that's in front of the hole, knock them in, and then bounce off the board, giving them 4. So that's just me.
That's just you though, Dad.
That's just me though.
Nobody else has to worry about that. Yeah.
Nope. So anyways, awesome. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think I think if we implement these things, we can definitely have some success, and I don't know, it'll be cool. I'll try to stay more true to these strategies. I typically do try to stay pretty true to these strategies, but that's kind of all I got for today. And unless you have anything.
Well, no, I just want to say also that sometimes, I also want to put a second asterisk on this episode to say that if you are an intermediate player, I know sometimes putting a perfect block in front of the hole is a very difficult thing. I throw a million blocks where I'm like, and now that's a absolute perfect bumper for their next 3 bags to go straight in the hole. You know what I mean? So we're simply saying that these are some tips and some things that you can work on. You can work on at your house, and you're throwing out in the backyard or wherever. Just start working on throwing that bag straight down the middle, but putting a little bit off of it, taking a little off of it, and just cluttering up, and keep working on just throwing bags straight. And it's just a good defensive tactic. But
definitely.
I just want to say also, that it's been a hot minute since we've recorded. We both had just tons and tons of things going on, and obviously the holidays
Mm-hmm.
are getting closer, and so we're sorry we haven't posted as much. It has done nothing but rain here for the past month. My backyard is one solid leaf from my oak tree. It's one solid leaf. My roof is one solid leaf. I have pads in the backyard and great lighting. If it's dry and dark, I can get out there and throw. I can record reviews. I can do whatever. But
Yeah.
right now, I have no options to do anything. So I'm trying to find a place that I can set up inside. My mom has offered her work, but I just need to find a time that I can actually take boards up there and do 2 or 3 reviews in a row so that I can have some stuff to put out. But we just want to say we're still here. And though our schedules are hectic and chaotic, and so we're hit or miss, we're still going to try to put out content. We don't want to just force something out there. We want it to matter. We want it to be, to be good content. And so bear with us. We appreciate your support. We appreciate you guys liking videos and subscribing to the channel and all of that.
Definitely.
We are trying to get more content out there as weather permits and time permits. So just bear with us. That's it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to throw out there, we'll be together around the holidays. Thankfully, I'm super excited about that. So let us know if you guys would like us to do any sort of like live Q&A or something like that over the holidays. We can sit back, get some hot chocolate or something, and we can all just talk about bags, and whatever questions come through, we'll answer them if we can, and just have a fun time with all you guys.
Yeah, it could be. We could just do like a Facebook Live or something, and we could sit, or
that'd be great.
I mean, heck, even if we were able to get, if we were able to find somewhere to set up some boards, we could just go live, throw some bags, go to the screen, answer questions, do whatever.
That would be cool. That sounds great.
Also, just give us episode ideas. I mean, if there's something that you feel like would be a great topic for us to cover, then by all means, reach out to us, private message on Facebook, message just the Facebook page, respond under this video, do whatever. We're always open to helping, because that's what we wanted to do with this channel, was to help players who are trying to get better. So, again, we have advanced players, I'm sure, that check out the videos and watch, but I would argue that I think we have the most support from the fans who are trying to get better at this game. They're watching our videos for legit information on how to be a better cornhole player. So give us ideas, topics, we'll be happy to try to cover them. And, I'd love for us to maybe have an episode idea so that when Zach is in town, we can do an episode together, just, live, because that's always fun. It's always, a nice change of pace for us to be able to sit together and actually look at each other and talk. So,
yeah.
So let us know. Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in the episode as always. And we appreciate all the likes, comments, and definitely subscriptions. And as always, we'll try to get back to you. And we appreciate you guys so much. And we'll see you in the next one.
All right. See you later, guys. Eric Davis is out of his mind. And there's no player on earth that I'd rather be partnered with than Eric Davis. I know people would argue, but he doesn't have a whole lot of success in singles. I don't care.
Who cares?
He is arguably the greatest shot maker. I won't say greatest cornhole player, because if you were the greatest cornhole player, you'd have more success in singles. Greatest shot maker, period.
Period.
There's nobody better than him. Period, with a capital T at the end.
Yep.
Nobody hits shots like him as consistently as he hits shots. I defy you to tell me of one person who hits more like, oh my God, that was filthy, gross, nasty. I can't even look at it. He hit a double bar of soap in a game that mattered. And like, his bag goes, he pushes 2 over the back of the hole. I mean, you've seen it. Don't pretend you're watching this podcast and you haven't seen that shot. That shot was disgusting. And he hits shots like that. He hits shots like that more often than anyone else in the game, hands down. Don't come at me. I'm not even going to humor a conversation about somebody who makes better shots than Eric Davis.
The fact that shot was even an option, the fact that he even thought, maybe I could do this as my first choice. Like, I can't believe it. I watched it live, and he called a timeout. This dude called a timeout and was like, all right, I'm going to go down here and see what I can do.
I'm going to see if I can screw this man's life up real quick. Let me look.
He walks back to the board and just laser beam 813 miles an hour to 2 bags. They flop up on the back of the hole. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God.
And then he couldn't even believe it, which I don't know why he was in such disbelief. Like, that's just a casual Tuesday shot for Eric Davis. But he's like,
to do that,
buddy, we all feel that right now. To do it on purpose. Like, you and I would look at it and go, man, it'd be really good if I was a good enough player to knock both of his bags over the hole. And he just did it.
Oh my God.
So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. That was just stupid. It was ridiculous.
It was stupid.
It was stupid and ridiculous.
He's the best shot maker in the world.
I think I could win an ACL Pro tournament if he was my partner. That's how confident I am in his.
He's the best doubles partner in the world. No question.
Nobody better.
No question.
Nobody better.
Because he plays defense, but he capitalizes and scores points by playing defense. Everybody can play defense.
That's the difference.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. Like we were talking about in this episode, you put 4 stacked up by the hole to try to escape with the other player only scoring 2 to 3 points. Like, Eric will put 2 stacked up in front of the hole and he will collect every freaking one of them.
Seriously.
Okay. And they might even be off center, midway down the board. Well, he'll just step out and he'll throw a fast side a foot off the ground and he will push them all up and they will go bloop right in the hole.
Yeah.
And then he will casually, like you always say we're watching soccer, cool as you like, he will step back over to the board and then he will throw his next bag.
With his AirPods in.
It's dumb. It's dumb. And I hate him.
It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh. It's it's amazing. Yeah. And everything we talk about in this episode about playing defense and all that stuff, we mean that for humans, bipedal hominids, that have, we mean that for
vertebrates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't mean that, for obviously extraterrestrial life forms playing in the ACL. Named
who
Eric
can
Davis.
Manipulate bag trajectory with their mind, because I don't know how you throw as hard as he throws, as accurately as he throws. Anytime I try to throw a bag really hard, I'll tell you what, if the only time I'm ever perfectly on line with a really hard thrown bag, I hit the front of the board. It'll be perfectly on line. It'll be right where it needs to be, and it'll go.
I know that feeling. That's happened to me. That happened to me today. It was ridiculous.
Oh, I hate it. Anyway, that's all.
Cool. Yeah,
we stuck around. Yeah, you stuck around after the credits. Like the video. Subscribe.
Heck yeah. Subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.